The series of celebrities reading chapters from my dad's book, Gloves Off, continues. So far, Gary St. Jean has read a chapter, and I've read a chapter. Now, Steve Bitker reads a chapter about Baron Davis and my dad, Lowell Cohn. If you've never heard of Steve Bitker, he's a local legend. He's been the KCBS sports anchor since 1991. That's 7:40 a.m. And I remember as a kid, when my dad would drive me to school, third grade, fourth grade, we'd be sitting eating breakfast at the breakfast table before he would drive me down the hill. And we would be listening for Steve Bitker's radio sports update in the morning. It would come, I think, every half hour. My dad would listen to it every morning religiously. When it would come on, he would say, "Grant, listen to how professional Steve's tone is. Listen to how he enunciates so well, so clearly. Listen to how he never misspeaks." A deep reverence in my dad's voice for Steve Bitker. And I remember sitting there as a 7-year-old eating my Honey Nut Cheerios thinking, yeah, he's pretty good. Well, here he is reading the story of the time my dad put Baron Davis in his place. Enjoy.
Chapter 57, Baron Davis Learns Manners. I remember this day very well. Baron Davis was dribbling a basketball. He wasn't supposed to be dribbling a basketball. It was Golden State Warriors Media Day 2007, just before the NBA season started. And the Warriors invited the press to interview the players. This had always been a casual, friendly get-together. At an appointed time, a player would sit at a large round table in the Warriors gym and chat with eager reporters. It's how the NFL works things during Super Bowl week, players at tables with the media. Of course, the Warriors don't do that anymore, sadly. They are 3-time world champs, and the players come into an interview room one at a time, sit on the stage, and hold press conferences with the media way down below. Presidential. And that ruins the fragile thread of intimacy. So many things ruin the fragile thread of intimacy in our lives. And that's one of them. Davis was supposed to sit at a table already populated with reporters and columnists, and TV and radio people, but Davis wasn't sitting. He was dribbling and shooting. The table was near one of the baskets, and Davis apparently thought he needed practice. He shot baseline jumpers. He drove for layups. Sometimes he went behind his back and did a stutter step. Steve Bitker, the morning sports anchor for KCBS Radio, was assigned to get audio from Davis, a Warriors star, ordinarily an easy assignment. You sit, he talks, you record his words. But Davis wasn't sitting. He was doing a solo basketball performance. "Ask me questions and I'll answer," he shouted over his shoulders as he sank a jumper. Bitker was chasing him around the court, chased Davis holding his recorder and microphone near Davis's mouth as close as he could get, which wasn't very close. Bitker's face was full of frustration. Bitker wasn't getting any audio except for heavy breathing, his and Davis's. And I was watching this absurdist drama, which was either a fuck you to the media, not the first time an athlete delivered a fuck you, or maybe Davis, who had always seemed agreeable, was just clueless. That's when my mother entered the gymnasium. My mother, Eve, a New York City elementary school teacher, she was dead by then, but she was there. I knew she was there. She had been loving but stern, had standards, established limits, made us set our school clothes the night before, my brother, my sister, and me. One time when I was 9, I was sitting at the kitchen table doing homework, which she required, sitting there while we worked. I did a half-assed job. Ink splotches on paper. I handed the paper to her. Her face never changed. She merely ripped it in half and said, "Now do it again." I felt my mother as I watched Davis. It was more than feeling her, it was listening to her. My mother and father still exist within me. I hear them cheering for me, criticizing me, guiding me as they always did. I hear them. My mother would have disapproved of Baron Davis. Such bad manners, so rude to adults doing an honest job. And as I watched poor Steve Bitker running around humiliated by Davis, I said in a loud, stern voice, my mother's voice, Baron, sit down. Sit down now. See, I remember this. I remember this very well. He stopped dribbling the ball. He stared at me. He tried to take in what he had just heard. Sit down now. I said to him, it's time to be a gentleman, Baron. Be a gentleman. I have to tell you, there were no other reporters at the table then. It was just the two of us. And I looked at Lowell, and he looked at me, and we looked at Barron, and Barron looked at us, and nobody said a word. And like Lowell wrote, I thought we might get a big fuck you, and he'd go on about his shooting. But he paused and reflected, and he thought about it, and he came back and sat down. Let me get back to the chapter. Again, I said to him, it's time to be a gentleman, Baron. Be a gentleman. He set the ball on the floor, made sure it stayed put. He walked over to the table, pulled out the chair designated for him, sat in it, looked each of us in the eye, and damn if he didn't give the best interview he ever gave. Thanks, Mom. So this was 13 years ago, and I still remember this so well. I remember Lowell saying, sit down, Baron, sit down now. Be a gentleman. Great memory, great memory. Great book. Thanks, Lowell.